Hey guys, what's going on? NGS back again for another video. It's time for another installment of NGS Reviews. It's been quite some time since I've come on camera to give you guys my thoughts, my opinions, host a little discussion on whatever anime, manga, video game, movie I checked out recently. Seeing as how this is a film that I've been looking forward to, well, damn near since I heard they were doing a third installment. This is one of my most anticipated films of the summer, if not for the entire year. And hey, Robert Downy Jr. That's all I gotta say. Today I'm gonna give you guys my thoughts on Iron Man 3. A little bit of a history before we get on to the character of Iron Man in this movie. I was never really too big a fan of Iron Man growing up. Growing up, I really pretty much kept to my Spider-Man, my X-Men, my Batman. And you know, as people tried to come up to me and try to get me into other characters from the Marvel Universe, they recommended me check out Iron Man because, hey, if you like Batman, Iron Man's pretty similar. But no. I always looked at Iron Man and I thought he was like the welfare Marvel version of Batman. Because you look at Batman and what does Batman have? He has brains, he has money, he is at the peak of human potential. He's a goddamn ninja. And then you look at Iron Man and he's just got brains and he's just got money. That's it. It's like brains and money as opposed to brains, money, and trade by the freaking ninjas. So I never understood why any nigga loves Iron Man. I'm just like, hey man, you like that welfare version of Batman? Cool, I'm over here chilling with the Dark Knight. But there were some positive things I did like about the character of Tony Stark, even before I actually started reading the comics. I loved his entire personality. The fact that he did not try to hide his smarminess, his playboy appearance. You know, he was a smarmy millionaire. He was not afraid of what people thought of him, as opposed to other people who were trying to, hide that exterior. They're just trying to keep more introverted. He was just pretty much out there. It's like, hey man, I don't give a fuck. I got money. I will fuck bitches in that bathroom right there. I don't give a shit, man. So that's the one thing I did like. And once I actually got a chance to see the film a little after it came out, I started reading some of the comics and I really did learn to love the character of Tony Stark and his adventures and the world of Iron Man. Sadly, that's not so much the case anymore considering what they're doing with the character. And ever since what happened in Civil War, oh man, there's a complete contrast in my love and appreciation for modern Iron Man and the film version of Iron Man. Because when you look at modern Iron Man, yeah, bitches have not recovered from Civil War. And all I gotta say for Civil War is they freaking turned Tony Stark into quasi-Adolf Hitler, man. It's just, without getting into it, if you do not understand what I'm talking about, go read Civil War and then you will see how fucked up, how they just, God, whose idea was Civil War? Damn it. Anyway, yeah, it's pretty interesting the contrast in how people will look at the Iron Man character, because you look at the movies and you look at the popularity of the character. Iron Man was never really this popular guy. I mean, I'm not going to say he was a D-lister hero. He wasn't. He was in the B range, and ever since the movies came out and RDJ pretty much made the character his own, everyone's like, oh my freaking god, who's this guy? Iron Man, shit, that's awesome. And he's risen up there to the Marvel tier. And you can definitely see that they're trying to make Iron Man the poster child for Marvel Comics. They're trying so hard to get rid of Spider-Man, it's not even funny, but that's another rant for another day. For the most part, the movies in the MCU have been pretty good. Iron Man has been treated pretty well outside of a pretty crappy second installment. But now that we have the third film in the series, this has been advertised as the one that would fix everything. It's the start of Phase 2 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So hey, what could go wrong? Well, yeah, a lot of things went wrong. Iron Man 3 was pretty disappointing. Now, don't take this out of context. I know a lot of people are going to attribute this to the fact that, oh, you're just biased, you hate Iron Man, you don't like the character, you're such a Spider-Man fanboy. Yet I spent all this time explaining how I just love the character, I dislike what they're doing with him. Anyway, that is simply not the case, because even though I didn't enjoy the second installment of Iron Man, I still love the character of Tony Stark and Robert Downy Jr.'s portrayal. Going forward, I just want to remind you guys that this review will be spoiler-filled, so if you guys have not seen Iron Man 3 yet, back-click off the video right now. So now that we've got that out of the way, enjoy my long, rambling rants of Iron Man 3. Now, I want to highlight some of the positive things that I found pretty interesting in this movie. Now, first things first, one interesting aspect is the tone of the film. The tone for the Marvel Cinematic Universe throughout all films has been pretty consistent, but in this case, it's a complete 180. It's pretty much all dark and serious, and there's really no room for humor going on here. The humor in this film, however little it may be, it's just not as effective, I felt, in comparison to the other Iron Man movies. Whereas the other Iron Man movies and the Avengers, you look at Tony Stark's humor, and it doesn't matter what the scene is whatsoever. You could have this guy celebrating a birthday party. You could have this guy here dying. We're going to fall off a cliff. He would crack a joke, and it would make sense. It'd be funny in some situations. In some situations, it wouldn't make sense. It makes sense for us, but not for the people in the movie. It's just like, whoa. But in this one, it's just so, like, what the heck is happening here? They're trying to crack jokes in scenes where they really do not work. Really dark and serious moments where it's like, yeah, you can't fit a joke in here. They fit a joke in here, but in some cases it works. In other cases it doesn't. And then you kind of do see that, oh, you're kind of pushing it right now. You kind of lighten up, RDJ, lighten up. It was just weird. But I think when you strip away the humor aspect, which, the humor in this movie is really hit or miss, I think the tone definitely works well for the portrayal of Tony Stark's character. Because, considering the fact that this is a post-Avengers movie, you look at the character of Tony Stark and what he went through in that movie. He pretty much was ready to sacrifice his life to protect the world from the invasion. He was ready to take the nuke up into that wormhole, and he was ready to die. And after coming back from that, he's got that, that sigh of relief, like, I'm alive, oh my God! But we really didn't get to see how much of a mental strain that put on him until now, and it is definitely evident because this guy is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. He can't sleep, he can't function well. The mere mention of what happened in New York, you don't even have to mention any of the Avengers, just what happened in New York, he's just not the same guy, and it's kind of heartbreaking to see him go through this, but that adds such an interesting layer to the character because at the end of the day, we may forget this with all his fantastic, machinery that is helping him win these fights. He's still vulnerable and he's still human at the end of the day. You may look at characters like Thor and Bruce Banner and even to some extent Captain America, they've all got something going for them. Thor, of course, is a god. Hulk is pretty much this, well, not indestructible beast, but you understand, he's the Hulk. And then you look at Captain America, who's at the peak of human potential. And what do you have this? When you literally take away his suit of armor, what is he? You strip away the playboy status, you strip away the money, and he's just this normal guy, and he's going through so many problems. I really love that about the movie. It was really great to see that, but I did feel like we were kind of, one step forward, two step back in terms of showing the struggles of Tony Stark's character. Because in the second movie gave off this whole situation where Tony Stark is kind of questioning whether or not he should be Iron Man or not because, the shrapnel is getting closer to his heart, it's killing him, and, he's really reevaluating why he's doing this thing. But at the end of the movie, you do see that, there is a silver lining and he's destined for greatness and all that shenanigans, and you sort of see him go through this again in this one, and mind you, these are two totally different extremes, but there is definitely like a silver lining of repetition right there where it feels like, we've been down this path before, why are you telling this to us again? So in terms of tone and portrayal of the character, I think they handled that pretty well. The humor, however, like I said, is sort of hit or miss. It works in some cases and it doesn't. And, the pacing of this movie is another thing that I want to draw into question because there are some moments in the beginning where it moves really fast and they're trying to introduce all this stuff here and then it slows it down in the parts that don't need to be slowed and then it fast forwards it like no tomorrow, and I'm like, what the hell is going on here? And when they start introducing all of these characters, it's interesting because these characters, they wouldn't get as much development as you expect. Now, of course, you have your returning cast such as Don Cheadle as Rhodey Rhodes and Gwyneth Paltrow as Pepper Potts. And these guys, they barely have any screen time in the movie. Of course, they have their shining moments in their introductions and their final confrontation, but other than that, there'd be like 20, 30 minutes before you'd see Rhodey Rhodes on screen again, or even someone mentioned Pepper Potts. It was just like, wow, what's going on here? But I did like, however, how they did participate in the final confrontation. Pepper Potts in particular, she does get a chance to sport the Iron Man armor, however brief, however for like 5 seconds for it. And by the end of the film, I'm not going to spoil this one in particular, but yeah, shit does happen to her and she kind of does save the day. So Pepper Potts to the rescue! Now that we've covered the supporting cast of returning people, let's talk about the new additions to the cast. Mainly, I want to talk about Guy Pearce's character, Adrian Killian, because I knew something was up with this fucker from the beginning. Ever since I saw the main trailer, and you see that little smirk that he has there, and he's trying to fool around with Pepper Potts, I'm like, oh, hell no. Someone better keep an eye on this fool right here, because something was going to happen. And you see in the beginning of the movie that this guy is, oh my god, they're not going for this route, they're not going for this route. He's this guy who's so, out of his luck, clumsy, he's just trying to catch a break, and when he tries to approach Tony Stark when he's in his full playboy mode, back in the day before, he really understood the grand scheme of things, back in 1999, this is like 13 or so years later, whatever time period this thing takes place in. This character, Adrian Killian, is so out of his luck, and all he's trying to do is just get help from Robert Downy Jr., and he can't get that, so he just goes through this slump, and he's trying to contemplate whether or not he should commit suicide. And then when you see this fool, like 13, 14, 15 years later, he's so suave and debonair, and he's slick, he's trying to hit on Pepper, he's got all the answers, man, because he worked at this industry. And I always knew something was wrong with him, because they cannot have this guy in the movie acting like that, doing complete 180, and not make him relate to the villain whatsoever. Now, the villain. Who is the villain of Iron Man 3? I gotta say this, for all of you people, for everybody out there who's watching the trailers for Iron Man, who is expecting to see Iron Man duke it out with the Mandarin.
Ladies, children, sheep. Some people call me a terrorist. I consider myself a teacher. Lesson number 1. Heroes. There is no such thing.
Yeah! No! That does not happen in this movie. All of the trailers that were highlighting the fact that the Mandarin, since pretty much Iron Man 1, when they did that little thing with the 10 rings, you knew they were going to do the Mandarin at some point. And I was thinking to myself, well, they're going for the Mandarin. The Mandarin is a pretty big villain for Iron Man, so how are they going to adapt him? Because they said that this film would be a lot more grounded in the sense that it wouldn't be the Mandarin in the comics where he's all magical and mystical. But I was thinking, okay, if they're not going to go for the mystical route, they could still do something with the character. And when I saw photos of Ben Kingsley as the Mandarin, I'm like, you know what? This could work. This could seriously work. But the Mandarin's not even in the movie. The Mandarin, as you know him in the comics, he's not there. He's not there. Who is the Mandarin at the end of the day? This fucker's the Mandarin. This guy right here. All this stuff that you're seeing. No. This is one of the stupidest decisions that they're trying to pull an M. Night Shyamalan here. There is no denying it. They're trying to keep this all secret, this twist that it's not really the Mandarin this whole time. So they spent all this time advertising it, saying, see the fight between Iron Man and the Mandarin, and oh my god, it's gonna be friggin' awesome. You see him blowing up Tony's house. Whoa! But no. It's all a ploy by Guy Pearce's character to tear down America, to get revenge on Tony Stark, not from the outside, but from the inside. So he came up with this elaborate plan to get this one English actor to portray this entity, this evil guy who would embody all of terrorism and all that shit. And he's not even the guy. He is not even the guy. And you'll find out pretty early that this is all a ruse. You would expect this to be the final twist at the end of the film, like the last 20 minutes. No. You find this shit out before the movie even hits an hour in. I was watching this and I see what's happening here. I'm like, oh no, they did not just do that. How far in the movie am I? I was only 45 minutes in. 40 minutes. I was like, what the hell? What the hell? And what's his motivation? What is Adrian Killian's motivation to go through all of this? It's because he's anti-corporation. Wow, are we really going the anti-corporation route? Oh, corporations are evil. They do this and they do that. So he tries to kidnap the president. He kidnaps the president and he's talking to the president. He's like, why did you do this? Why did you do this? Because of all you greedy corporations, you corporate fat cats not caring about the environment and the oil spills. This is motherfucking serious. This motherfucking serious. Oh my freaking Lord. Oh my Lord. He's also in charge of the Extremis program, which the Extremis program, basically, it started out as something for the military veterans to regain lost limbs, and of course it backfires, and Killian's like, maybe I could use this to further my goals. And I'm just wondering to myself, why the hell did they go so far as to introduce the Mandarin if they're not even going to use him as the Mandarin? And before all you bitches come in here and say, oh, it can't be exactly 100% like the comics, nobody was expecting the Mandarin to be 100% like the comics in terms of how he was portrayed there. In terms of the magical, mystical aspects, no, nobody knew that, especially with the tone of this series. We were expecting the core character traits to be intact with the Mandarin. That is what everybody expects with everything. Like with Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, we were expecting the core character traits of Bane. We didn't get that, and we certainly didn't get that here with the Mandarin. All we got was this freaking, this decoy who's trying to prove that, oh man, I'm just gonna sit here and, you know, make some money and... They took one of the greatest villains in Iron Man history and they just reduced him to this. To this. You know, a lot of people like to question the viral marketing of the Marvel movies, and you know, I definitely do see some form of a bias in there, like especially in terms of the Amazing Spider-Man versus the other Marvel movies, in particular Iron Man 3. Everybody was pitching a hissy fit about the Amazing Spider-Man, its deceptive marketing. If y'all bitches don't piss a hissy fit over this, where they clearly and literally misled you, saying there'd be a big confrontation between these two entities, if y'all gonna complain about the Amazing Spider-Man with its scenes that weren't in the actual movie and not complain about this, which is a complete antithesis of what you're actually getting, wow! I mean, come on now, seriously. So, at the end of the day, Iron Man 3, it had some great moments. I'm not even going to deny that. I loved the further understanding of Tony Stark's character, the PTSD, what he's going through and his struggling, but everything else just felt so unnecessary. It just really felt like, did we need a second Iron Man movie? Because this feels like Iron Man 2.5 mixed in with other things. I did not understand really what was the drive going into this. Now, was it the writing that was the problem? Was it the director? Was it Shane Black? Was it Kevin Feige? Who's freaking responsible for this? I don't know. I really don't. And it makes me sad as a fan of Iron Man to have to really get disappointed in this film, because, you know, there was a lot of hype going on with it, and I thought with a new director, a new writer, they could attempt to fix what was wrong with Iron Man 2, and that's just not the case. Oh, man. But it's just... I really don't know what's going to happen next for Iron Man. This movie's definitely going to make money. It's going to get some good reviews. But, you know, the way the film ends off, it ends off in a way that they could tell more Iron Man stories. But do we really want any at this point? I really don't know. I feel like they've sort of been slacking in the Iron Man film department. Whereas I look at things like Captain America 2 and Thor 2, and I feel like they're putting a lot more effort into those films as opposed to Iron Man. I feel like just because it's Robert Downy Jr. that they could get away with it, and maybe that's the case. Maybe that is what's going on. Maybe people just want to see Robert Downy Jr. in a suit. I can't really say for sure. But yeah, Iron Man 3 was definitely for me a disappointing start for the Marvel Cinematic Universe Phase 2. And it's a really disappointing start for summer for me, because, you know, this, Man of Steel, and, you know, other films that are coming out were really going to highlight my movie-going experience. But after seeing this, I'm like, oh, man, that's just depressing. Should you go check out Iron Man 3? Honestly, I gotta say, if you're just going for a summer blockbuster movie, if you love Marvel movies and you don't give a shit about anything, then yeah, I think you're going to enjoy Iron Man 3. It's worth watching. It's an entertaining movie. But in contrast to what we were promised and what we were expecting, what anybody with, you know, 14 brain cells could understand about where they were going, it just feels so out there and so off. And does anyone else get the idea that they're going to try to do this storyline for the Avengers 2 where all of the characters get beaten and broken down by the end of the movies and they have to come again together for the Avengers 2 and rise up? What's the storyline? Disassembled, something. It'll appear somewhere on the screen. But I have a feeling they might go towards that. And yeah, I don't really know. I don't think that I'd like to see that per se based off of this film alone, but hey, who's to say what'll happen? So the final verdict on Iron Man 3 from me is pretty disappointing. I'm not really going to sugarcoat it anymore. I hope you guys enjoyed my review. I am GS signing out, and like always, I will catch you guys later. Peace.